Every man knows this silent ache. You enter a room, hoping to finally be seen, but something inside you shrinks. You try to speak, but your words dissolve into thin air. People smile, but their eyes slide past you. You call it love, but in truth, it's another audition. All your life, you fought to be chosen, to be enough. But the more you try, the more you disappear. She looks at you, but not as you are. She scans for a role only you can fill. Her gaze is not acceptance, it's assessment. You are measured, not for who you are, but for how well you fit her unfinished script. You want to be loved, but you become a character, a projection. You start to adapt, to perform. You call it intimacy, but it's survival. Carl Jung warned us. Most people never fall in love with each other. They fall in love with their own unfinished story. And you are cast to play a part. The more you fit, the less of you remains. This is the cost of being chosen. Invisibility. Your truth becomes a shadow. Your needs, an inconvenience. One wrong move, one slip of authenticity, and the curtain falls. You call it heartbreak, but what truly dies is the man you pretended to be. So let me ask you, are you still desperate to be chosen? Or are you finally ready to be seen? By yourself. Every story starts with the eyes. You feel her looking at you. But what you feel is not intimacy. It is assessment, calculation. She does not see the man in front of her. She sees a blank canvas, a screen for her private dreams. Inside her, there is a movie playing. The main character is not you. It is the version of you she imagines. A myth she has crafted from childhood stories, disappointments, and longing. Her animus, the inner masculine image Jung warned about, a force so powerful, so silent. It writes its own scripts and casts real men as stand-ins. You think her attention is a gift. You feel chosen. You want to believe you are special. But what you are is available. Available for projection. Available for editing. Available for someone else's fantasy. She tells you, you are not like the others. But what she means is, you fit the role better. Not because you are more, but because you are more manageable, more willing to bend, more eager to please. You start to perform. You listen when you want to speak. You smile when you want to challenge. You soften your edges so she will feel safe. You call it connection, but it is self-erasure. And here is the price. The more you mold yourself, the less she respects you. Because the feminine is not drawn to comfort. It is drawn to mystery. It craves what it cannot fully define. The moment you become predictable, the moment you become too easy to read, she loses interest. Jung saw this before anyone else. He warned, most relationships are not meetings of souls. They are collisions of projections. You are not being met. You are being imagined. And when the fantasy breaks, the actor gets replaced. That emptiness you feel in the silence after she is gone, that ache in your chest when she no longer looks your way, that is not the loss of love. It is the loss of your mask. So ask yourself, who are you? When you are no longer being watched, when no one is editing your every move, will you keep auditioning? Or will you finally walk off the stage? Because the power to be seen does not come from playing the part. It comes from refusing to play at all. If you have ever felt unseen, if you have ever become a mirror for someone else's dreams, share your thoughts in the comments. Press like so more people can discover this truth. And subscribe to this channel to continue the journey into your own mind. You think she is arguing with you? But she is not. She is arguing with a ghost, a shadow built from old pain, from betrayals she never healed, from stories that started long before you arrived. She looks at your face, but in her mind, you are someone else. You remind her of the man who left, the father who was never there, the lover who lied, the man who silenced her mother. It does not matter who you really are. You have become a trigger for unfinished wounds. Jung called this the animus, the inner masculine that rules from the shadows. When a woman has not faced this part of herself, she does not choose men, she reenacts them. Every argument becomes a battle with her own history. You speak from your heart, but she hears accusation. You set a boundary. She feels control. You show vulnerability. She calls it weakness, not because of you, but because of him, the myth, the ghost, the echo. You are not being heard. You are being used as a battleground. And here is the hardest truth. She does not know she is doing it. Projection is unconscious. It is automatic. It feels like reality to her. She believes you have changed, that you are not who she thought. But the truth is, you never were. You were only playing a role she assigned. And when you stop performing, when you refuse to carry the blame for another man's sins, she does not reflect, she recasts. This is not love. It is reenactment, a play with no ending. The more you try to fix it, the deeper you sink. You think if you just say the right thing, if you just love her enough, she will finally see the real you. But she cannot. Not until she does her own work. Not until she meets her own animus. And here is the tragedy. The more you shrink, the more you try to be safe, the less she respects you. The feminine does not want a puppet. She wants presence, something solid, something untamed. But when you make yourself small, you become disposable. You fade into the background of her story, and you wonder why you feel empty. So ask yourself, are you arguing to be seen? Or are you being used as a canvas for old wounds? Do you want to keep playing the ghost? Or do you want to become real? Because only when you refuse to be cast, can you finally walk off her stage and start living as your own man. No man wakes up one day and decides to betray himself. It starts quietly. A feeling you ignore, a truth you swallow, a line you do not draw. You call it patience. You call it kindness. But deep down, it is fear. Fear of being too much. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if you do not shrink, she will leave. So you begin the slow performance. You soften your words. You round your edges. You make yourself small, smooth, safe. A version of yourself that is easy to love. But what you create is not a man. It is a product. Jung had a name for this. Self-betrayal. It is not loud. It does not happen in one moment. It happens in 1,000 tiny silences. Smiles that are not real. Apologies that are not yours to give. Boundaries erased. Piece by piece. For peace, that is only obedience. You think you are holding on to love, but really, you are letting go of yourself. And here is what no one tells you. Every time you shrink to be loved, you teach her to ignore your truth. Every time you make yourself softer, you show her how to pass over your soul. You do not lose her because you are unworthy. You lose her because you become too easy to define. And what is fully defined becomes forgettable. She does not crave safety. She craves edge, mystery, presence. You thought, if I am just kind enough, if I just love her harder, she will see me. But she did not want more love. She wanted more fire. And you gave her warmth, but never a burn. You did everything right. You were patient, present, polite. And still, she left. Not because you were wrong, but because you disappeared. So the question that haunts you is not, why did she leave? It is, when did you leave yourself? Because self-betrayal does not happen in explosions. It happens in whispers. 1,000 small choices to be smaller, softer, safer. But here is your reckoning. You were not born to be chosen. You were born to be known, not for your mask, but for your essence. If your essence makes her uncomfortable, that is not failure. That is presence. Because the man who shrinks to be loved will always be loved for the shrinking, never for the being. And that kind of love burns fast, then flickers, then blames you for the ashes. So this is your moment. Do you keep bending? Do you keep performing? Do you keep chasing love from a mirror that never reflected your soul? Or do you burn the script and stand, not to be loved, but to be real? Because no woman can ever see you until you stop hiding behind the man you think she wants. You thought being chosen meant being loved, but it did not. It meant you were available when her fantasy needed a face. You mistook attention for intimacy, desire for understanding. You thought her gaze was proof that you mattered, but her gaze was just projection, looking for someone who would fit a shape, not someone who would share a soul. She said you were different, but what she meant was, you fit the story better. You were not the exception. You were just the next. Jung warned us. When someone has not met their own soul, they borrow yours to fill the emptiness. But they do not borrow you. They borrow your silence, your presence, your shape. You stepped into a story you never knew, just because it felt good to be wanted. That is how the trap is set. It does not start with lies. It starts with praise. The words every unformed man aches to hear. You are not like the others. No one ever teaches you what that actually means. That when a woman has not faced her animus, she does not fall in love with men. She falls in love with a symbol. And when the symbol disappoints her, she does not reflect. She recasts. You did not fail her. You simply stopped fitting the projection. You stopped shrinking, stopped softening, stopped performing. You dared to show her the real you. Unfiltered, unscripted, unapproved. And the moment you did, you broke the fantasy. You were not loved. You were replaced. And that is the pain men carry but never name. The ache of being chosen but never seen. You blame yourself. You ask what you did wrong. But the real question is, why did you ever believe being chosen meant being loved? The truth is, you stayed because performance felt safer than rejection. You chose applause over authenticity, comfort over chaos, fantasy over reality. In doing so, you vanished. That is the real betrayal. Not hers, yours. You agreed to be the mask. You smiled through unease. You traded presence for approval. You were not chosen for who you are. You were chosen for how well you hid. And when you finally stopped hiding, she saw something unfamiliar. She saw you, and it terrified her. Because the truth you carry cannot be edited, cannot be managed, cannot be controlled. And if she is not ready to face her own shadow, she will run from yours. So now you stand at the edge of the stage, costume in hand, mask at your feet. For the first time, you realize being chosen was never the goal. Being met was. If she cannot meet you there, let her go. Not in bitterness, but in gratitude, because she did not betray you. She revealed you to yourself, and now you are free. If you have ever confused being chosen with being truly seen, if this story feels like yours, leave a comment and let others know they are not alone. Press like if you want more people to wake up from this illusion, and subscribe to this channel to keep exploring the truths no one dares to say. There comes a moment, not with drama, not with rage, but with silence. A moment when the illusion ends, and you are alone, not just without her, but without distraction, without performance, without applause, just you, breathing, blinking, remembering, trying to feel what it is like to simply exist, without being watched. And in that stillness, something aches, not because you lost her, but because you realize you were never fully there. Not as a man, as a mask, as a mirror. She did not fall out of love. She fell through the fantasy, and all that is left now is space. The kind of space you used to run from, the kind you used to fill with words, with smiles, with comfort. But now, it echoes. Jung called this the abyss. Not hell, not heartbreak, but the space between the persona and the soul, the death of who you thought you were, and the birth of who you might become. And it is terrifying, because all the things you thought made you lovable, your agreeableness, your softness, your careful masculinity, they have to burn, not because they are wrong, but because they were never real. They were fragments, strategies, camouflage. And now, the camouflage is gone. Now, the fire comes. Not the fire of rage, the fire of purification. This is what Jung meant. Individuation requires a kind of death. The death of the persona. You thought becoming a man meant adding more charm, more muscle, more lines to say. But it is the opposite. It is subtraction. It is surrender. It is standing in the wreckage of who you performed to be and deciding not to rebuild it. And it hurts. You walk into rooms you once found comfort in, and they feel empty. You talk to friends and realize they only knew your mask. You see your reflection and wonder who you are meeting for the first time. This is why most men go back to performing, back to pleasing, back to being chosen, because solitude feels like punishment when you have built your identity around being wanted. But Jung knew this is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the space where illusions decay and truth emerges, raw and unpolished. If you survive this silence, not escape it, not numb it, but survive it, you earn something sacred. Yourself, not the man she molded, not the version the world approved, but the one who no longer begs to be seen, the one who no longer asks permission to exist. You do not smile to be liked. You do not shrink to be safe. You do not chase love like oxygen. You walk, still, solid, Zoverein. And the loneliness you feel now is not emptiness. It is space. Space for the man beneath the ashes to finally breathe. If you are here, sitting in that silence, wondering if anyone will come for you, let me tell you, no one is coming. And that is the gift. Because when you stop waiting to be saved, you become the man who saves himself. And from that moment on, you never again trade your soul for someone else's smile. So here you are, alone. The mask has fallen. The applause is gone. And all that remains is silence. But what if this is not the end? What if the real journey only begins? When you face yourself, not as a role, but as the man behind the mask. In the next episode, we will discover what happens when you no longer need to be chosen, and how that truth can make you untouchable. Leave a comment if you have ever felt like you were just playing a part in someone else's story. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next chapter, where everything changes.